friends, welcome back to part 3 of this wonderful landscape. New Zealand it is. I made a mistake in the last one thinking it was Yellowstone. I don't know why. It looks very similar to a picture I downloaded from Yellowstone. Slight mix up. It's New Zealand, so it's going to be very interesting to see how this turns out. I'm really looking forward to this. I'm very excited to see it finished. So reflections, lots of reflections, and yes, let's have a bit of fun with this. I'm nervous. I hope it turns out nice. But look, it's just paint. You know, what's the worst that can happen? Grab your stuff. This will be a good one. Follow me along if you want. If not, just relax, enjoy the lovely, pleasant atmosphere, watch a bit of painting, sip your coffee, and chill out. So don't go anywhere. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in just a moment. Okay, here we go. Now this is what we've done so far. We did part 1 up here, then we did part 2, and let's come across now and see if we can finish this and make this into a wonderful painting, okay? Right. Now this is dry. I painted this in part 2. This is kind of dry, so it may be a little bit tricky to blend our new colours into this. We may have to go over some of these just a little bit again, alright, just to get that lovely smooth transition from old to new, alright. Here's my palette, my lovely messy palette. I don't know if you can see that there. I will try my best to show you as I'm going along while I'm mixing, okay? I'll try and remember to hold this up so you can see what I'm doing. All I have here is a little bit of turpentine and linseed oil, okay? A little small dash of that and some paper towel. Now let's crack on. I'm going to use, I'm thinking, this very sort of wide rough brush, okay? Now some of the hairs are kind of coming a little bit loose, but it's fine, absolutely fine. I think I'll use this. So let's look at the reference photograph there now. I'm not sure what side it's on, left or right. I'm not sure because it's pre-edited, so it's not edited quite yet. We have a lovely light blue coming along here, all right, and then we have some like a kind of this lovely reflection from these ones. So we'll concentrate now on all of these reflections coming across. Yes. Now I just need to support my board just a little bit more here, because it's quite there we go. Now, and I also have to plug in my phone because I forgot to plug in my charger to my phone to make sure we don't lose the reference photograph. Okay, I'm going to take my large rough brush, okay, it's dry. I'm going to dampen this with some turpentine, and it's just damp, alright? It's not soaking, but it's nice and damp. And I'm going to take a little, let's try cobalt blue, okay? I hope you can see me mixing some of this now, yes? And some white. So lots of white in this. Now, there's plenty of turpentine in this, okay? You can see it, look, running down. So plenty of turpentine, but when you add the white, then it really thickens it up. So cobalt blue and white. Now all of this paint here is completely dry on my palette, alright? So I just left it because I know the colours are in the same spots and all that, so it's much easier. So let's just go on with a bit of cobalt blue and try this. Now I think that needs a tiny hint of crimson. So pick up a tiny amount of crimson with the corner of your brush and let's go for it. It's very bright, sort of a warm kind of a blue, okay? So I'm just going to go along here now first like that. Alright, go up there, let me see, this is a little tricky now because of this being quite dry. I'm going to darken it slightly. I'm going to take a bit more cobalt blue and a touch perhaps of cadmium red. I'm kind of leaning more towards the cadmium red because the cadmium red is more of a warm earthy kind of it gives you a more earthy, warm kind of a blue rather than the crimson. When you're using crimson, crimson gives you a very cool kind of a pinky blue, like what we have here. But the cadmium red gives you a nice warm colour. So I'm just softening that now as it comes down, okay? And what I'm going to do then is I'm going to start putting in the reflection for this. Okay, so down here, we'll start on this. In fact, what we could do is bring some of this blue across. So I'm going to take some more cobalt blue, little cadmium red, and it's slightly stronger, look. Now there's no need to come all the way down to the canvas here, because this is all going to be, it's going to be covered with all this lovely grassy area. So there's no need to really. Let's take some more white, and I'm going to put a flick of the white through here. Nice thick white paint. Okay, I'm just kind of following the lay of the sky. You can see it, the way the sky is kind of going around the hill. So I'm just kind of getting that in kind of just roughly for now. Okay, I may suggest a little pink in this, so a little bit of a warmer colour, just to kind of complement the pink that we have in the sky here. So I may just take a little cadmium red and pop some cadmium red through here and there, okay? Just a tiny amount, and I'm mixing it with the blue that's already on the palette. Okay, so it's a more of a kind of a slightly plummy sort of a colour. Now I know we should be kind of copying exactly the colours we have, but looking at the reference photograph, it's not exactly the same. Just going to soften it across there, okay? Now as it comes down, I may darken it slightly around here, because I think it needs to be darker. Just a little darker around there. So a little bit more cobalt blue. Let's try a hint of the pink, okay? Let's just go for a hint of the pink. Tiny amount just on one hair is even enough, okay? That little small amount. I'm just going to suggest like the dark. I'm going to put it across like this. Don't worry now, we'll fix all of this very, very soon, okay? I'll get another bit of darker colour. More cobalt, touch of crimson. Okay, and we just suggest some darker colour along there. So now I'm going to leave it at that for now. What I will do is just dry my brush on some tissue, and I'm going to suggest some of the cloud reflection just around here, okay? So let's just take a little touch of white and a little touch of the pink. Okay, so we have a very soft pinky colour, very light pinky colour, and I'm just going to sort of flick it through just here and there, look, just to suggest a hint of those clouds in the water. It doesn't have to be exact, it's only just a very, now, because the clouds are going up that way, I'm going to come down this way with the clouds, look. I did it wrong at the beginning, so I'm just going to kind of come down here and suggest a hint of some of the clouds. And then we're going to soften that in with our soft brush. Where's my soft brush? Ah, here it is. My little soft powder brush. Soften that very gently across, okay? Now, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start working on some of this reflection colour up here. I can still use the same brush. And let's go for some cobalt blue. I may start to take a little of the phaylo blue, just to make it that little bit richer. And I'll take a hint of crimson. So I'm going for a nice, see that? Nice dark plum colour. More crimson, a little more phaylo, and you know, just add little amounts of paint as you're going, okay? Now I just put a dab of it on, take a look. I think a hint of cobalt might help this. Now I'm just going to go across there like that. Then I'm going to kind of soften it down into this lighter colour underneath, you see? Because you can see on the reference photograph, there's lots of ripples going through here, isn't there? Lots of bright ripples, so you don't have to be too perfect with this. Let's take a more crimson, a little more phaylo, and I'm going to darken it again, just a little. Okay, now I'm going to come across, start filling in across here. We'll move to smaller brushes then very soon, okay? Don't worry. I'm just kind of trying to get the basic underpainting in. That's all I'm trying to do for now, okay? Okay, let me just sit back now, take a look at this. It's not too bad so far. I'll come across now, we'll get this reflection in here. So for that I'll dampen my brush very, very gently. Just a touch. I'll take some phthalo blue, some cobalt. I'll take a hint of crimson. And I may add a hint of burnt umber to this, I think. Just the tiniest amount of burnt umber as well. Because you can see it's a kind of a browny pink, isn't it? So let's try this. Browny pinky kind of a colour. And I'm going to go along here. Suggest. You see, I'm using my big brush. You don't have to use small pointy brushes for this. I'm just getting kind of the rough shape of this hill in. Alright, that's all I'm doing. Okay. Let's take more phthalo, more crimson. I'll make it nice and dark around here. Okay. Now I'll just bring this across like so. Then I reflect this one. This is a very dark browny black colour, isn't it? So again, I'll dampen my brush very gently, just a touch, just to moisten it. I'll take some burnt umber. I'll take a hint of black. Okay, now you can see what I'm doing here. Burnt umber and black, and a hint of pink. That crimson, okay? Let's try this. Again, it's just the base colour, alright? Not to worry. Don't worry if it's not exactly the same. So let's mix up some more of that again. Some pink, some burnt umber, and let's put that pink and burnt umber over here. It's nice and ready over here, isn't it? So let's make it nice and ready here. And it's going to pick up some of this lighter colour as well. Now don't be too worried about that, okay? We'll go over this and over it again if we need to. I'm just worried, concentrating on filling this in. Just getting the canvas covered, yes? Now a little bit of burnt umber, a little bit of black. Because on the reflection you can see it's quite dark, isn't it? It's really a very blacky reflection. Okay, let's come down like that, all the way down. Now, I'm going to stop for a moment and just take a look at how we're getting on. And I'm thinking now what I might do is start bringing some blues, purples into it. I will put a little purple around here. So I'll take some phthalo blue and some pink. And I might just add a little hint of that bluey colour here and there, okay? Now I'm going to pull it down this time. There we are. And then I might actually darken some of this as well. I think it needs to be a lot darker. So I'm going to take some crimson, some black, and I'm going to just kind of come out here and bring that back out. You see what I mean? Go a little bit darker with that colour. Now, just soften all this out first. And then I'm going to take my soft brush and I'm going to pull everything down. Pull all downwards first. We do have mist as well. I want to create some mist here, so don't worry, I won't forget about that. And pull all this down. And we have some lights as well. We have to reflect some of those lights. Come across, pull all this down. It just helps give it that lovely soft reflective look when you pull the paint down like this. Now I'm going to pull this across first, okay? Just to soften it out a little. Then I'm going to pull it down. Just very quickly, you don't have to be too particular with all of this. Okay, now, so we had the basic kind of reflection done, and we can work on this then. So the next thing I want to do now is I want to try and sort this area out, trying to get this back to its former glory. Yes? I'm going to take my medium stubby brush. I'll dampen it slightly, and I'm going to mix up some of this lighter colour again. If I remember correctly, it was it some crimson and some naples yellow? I think that's what it was. Let me just check it here now on this. Yeah, that's not bad, that will do. So I'm going to just go along here and just put in a little. Now I'm going to follow, you see the angle of the dark we have here? I want to try and follow that, so it's going to be like this. Okay, just a little. And soften it across. I try and soften it in as well, you see, because try to keep it the reflection, keep it nice and soft, and across like that. Now I'm going to do the same with this darker one here. I'm going to just try and soften that out just a little, try to make it somewhat kind of back to the way it was. Understand? I'll take some phthalo blue and some crimson. I'll take a lot of crimson, some white. So I'm going for a nice plum. Nice plum. Let me just have a look at this now. Okay, I can work with that. Now, I'm just going to sort of, and again, I'm aware now this is not exactly the same as the photograph, okay? I'm perfectly aware of that. I'll come out here with some of these, sort of, and bring some of the white in as well, you see? And I can see on the photograph, it's kind of more of a solid line. Now, you could make it a solid line if you want. But I kind of, you know, it's nice to make it your own. Now, I'm just going to go with some white and some cobalt blue. And I'm going to just sort of lighten some of the ripples, bring them across here, okay? And I'll do the same down here. You can even use your palette knife for this as well now if you like. If you're more confident with your palette knife, then please use your palette knife, okay? Don't be afraid. Alright, now I'm going to bring some of the darker colour. I'll soften this in first, right? I don't know about that. I'm not too sure about that. I don't know. I don't think it's working for me. I'm going to bring a few of these out. Okay, and we'll also have some grass and stuff going through this as well. So don't worry too much. Right, I'm going to take a small brush because I think it needs a little bit of work just around the center here. I'm going to just try and lighten it very, very slightly, okay? Just a little hint with some naples yellow, perhaps a hint of white. I'm just going to put a couple of little flicks here and there. Add a bit of texture to it, you know what I mean? That's all. And then I'm going to redefine this line here. I think that needs to be redefined. Don't you think? I think it does. It's just kind of getting lost. So I'm going to darken it with some darker colour. I'm going to go for a very rich, dark plum. Alright? Some blue, some crimson and a hint of black. Now I'm just going to very gently, look. Try to sort of bring it back out. And take some lighter colour. I lighten it slightly. Let's go for, let me see now. Let's take some cobalt blue, little white. I don't want to be going too grey with this. I want to keep it nice and bright and fresh. Okay? So I'm being very careful with my colours. Let me see now. Okay, we have a nice kind of tone there. Soften it down just very slightly. I'm going to soften that back in again. Now, let's see if I can try and soften this somewhat. That's the tricky thing about when you're painting something and you let it dry. It's quite kind of tricky then afterwards to soften your colours back into it. Does that make sense? Now, I'll leave it at that for now, I think. Okay? And let's go across and try and do a bit of work here. I have some mist. I want to create some nice light colour in here. So with a very rough kind of a brush, I'm going to take some cobalt blue and a little white, okay? Now, I'm not going to go too light with this. So it's a nice rich kind of a light bluish kind of a colour, okay? Now, that's good. We'll try that. I'm going to soften it and just create that kind of light colour that we have there, okay? Round in circles, little circles. And it's nothing fancy, just a very quick sort of impression. Now let's pull that down very gently. Right across, look. So we're then getting that angle of the mountain besides it. That's exactly what I want. Now the next thing I'm going to do is, let me just get my reference photograph back up here. I'm going to try and create this down here, okay? Because I think it needs that. I'm going to try my best now to get this as close as I can. So let's go around. Let's imagine this line is coming up like that. It's coming up and it's going to turn. Okay. Let's just fill that in. A lot of this is trial and error. It's quite tricky. You know, it is quite tricky indeed. Now let me soften it down. And I'll try and get this little ridge in as well. I get a little more pink. Okay, it goes over like that. It sort of disappears over into that hill, doesn't it? Now, the next thing I'm going to do is, let me see now, is that anywhere close or near enough to what we have? Go over a bit more, I think. And then I'm going to soften it upwards first, okay? Soften it upwards into that colour. Then I'm going to pull it very gently downwards, okay? Into the reflection. Very gently. Then cleaner brush. And I'm going to pull very gently across. Then pull it out on this side. I'm going to stop for a moment and then I'm going to start putting in some of the lighter colours. So let's get some Naples yellow, a little hint of crimson, and I'm going to make it nice and rich. So plenty of each. I may even go more to the pink side of this, and I'm just going to quite literally need a bit more colour. It's fading into the blue underneath, you see, so you need to be aware of that. And just going to sort of pull it down and across. Just roughly getting that line kind of in. It doesn't have to be perfect, okay? It's just a very loose representation, that's all. And then soften it like this. Let's go right out here. Then, with my clean blender brush. I'm going to pull that down. So we're just creating a loose kind of impression. You see what I mean? Now you can, if you wanted, really go to town and put in some very bright, let's get some couple of bright colours in here, and we could just put in an impression of a couple of lights there, just to create a little bit of texture, you know what I mean? And we could even get a little bit of burnt umber with a little crimson, and we could put in some of that, because this is all going to be softened together anyway, okay? We have a nice little dark across there. Take a bit more burnt umber, give it a little impression of that reflection coming down there like that. See some of the darks, and then we could do that nice bright line which is separating those two colours. So we could go with this one here, go down like that. You see, something like that. Then I'll take a clean blender brush, nice and clean, and I'll pull them upwards gently first and then gently down. And I don't want to lose the brush strokes too much, okay? I want to keep some of the brush strokes. Let's just go across it now very gently. So now we have, I think, a very loose kind of impression of that reflection, yes? Now also, I want to bring some of this dark across. Right, this now is where it gets interesting. So I want a nice flat brush, okay? I'm going to buy, I'll use my new one, look, I got a new little brush. Simple, flat, synthetic brush, okay? My stubby is kind of thickening up slightly, so it's just not quite sharp enough yet. So I'm going to use a new little flat brush for this. Let me make sure now this is nice and flat. Right, I've dampened it slightly. I'm going to make a nice dark colour for this. I will go with some black, some phaylo blue, some crimson and some cadmium red, let's say. Now that's a nice dark colour, I think. And I'm just going to go across this and I'm going to pull it out very gently. I may add a bit more phaylo blue to it, and I'm going to literally pull across in front of that reflection there, okay, look. Now I need more pink in this. Does that make sense? And soften that back. Now I know we're going over a lot of what we did already over here, but that's kind of how painting works. You kind of change as you go. It goes from one thing to another very, very quickly. The painting changes all of the time. So I'm just going for a nice dark bluey kind of a colour. So there. Go along here and I get some of this. Like that. Just creating some of the ripples, okay? That's all I'm doing. I'm going to go for a nice dark colour. Some blue, some crimson and some black. And I'm going to go nice and dark in here. I'm just being careful not to go too far across, okay? Now you don't have to do this if you don't like to. If you want to leave it as it is, that's absolutely fine. But I like that kind of ripple effect. Now I'm just going to pull this very gently across. Okay? That'll soften out all those brush strokes, make it lovely and soft. There. Coming along. Quite nice, I think. Okay, we're doing quite well. I think I'll get my palette knife. I think that's what we'll do next. Yes, let's have a bit of fun with our palette knife. Right, I'm going to take some white. Now I'm not going to go pure white. I'll take white with a little hint of cobalt blue. Okay? Now let's take plenty of that. Let's not be shy. Let's take plenty of that. Little hint of cobalt blue and white. And get a nice roll of this on your palette knife, okay? Let's go across now and give this some light. And this will bring it to life, okay? Right across first the horizon line. And I'm letting the canvas drag this off, okay? So I'm not pressing too hard. I'm allowing the canvas to drag this off of my knife. Let's get some more. Let's go right across. And you can let this kind of hit and miss as well if you like, okay? It doesn't have to be a solid line all the way across either. So clean your palette knife each time you do this. Just keep it nice and clean. And let's go across here now and try and break this up a little. There we are. And it's a lot of fun. And we'll go a couple in around here. I will add a bit more blue to it as it comes down. It's going to be a more of a light blue to sort of match in almost with that one down here. So a nice light kind of a bluey colour, some cobalt blue and some white. There we go. And just pop some of this in here and there. Right through that reflection, you see, and that will immediately then kind of push the reflection back. We've got a lot of that kind of rippling going on around here, don't we? So let's pop some of it over here. And my canvas is kind of a very rough canvas in general. It has a very thick grain. So your canvas, if it's a bit smoother, you might get these lines a little bit better than me. My canvas is just very kind of, it's a very thick grain canvas. So it's just a little bit more trickier for me, that's all. And put a couple of those ripples across through this reflection here. Just a handful, one or two. And I'm going to bring some more, one or two just sort of through here. And these ripples will break up the reflections wonderfully. And maybe pop one or two across here. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is I want to try and soften some of these out, okay? Just a little. There we go. That's a little better now, isn't it? Very gently break up those reflections. Okay, we just fix this one over here. Just soften that away. Now, let's stand back and have a very quick little look at how we're getting on. How is this all looking? Are we happy enough? I'm quite pleased now with this. I may put a hint of it just here to break up some of that off in the distance. Just a little kind of a glisten on that water back there. I think it needs just a little touch. Okay, and I won't overdo it, okay? I'll try not to overdo it. The one thing I don't want to do is overdo the painting, because it will probably end up getting worse. You know what I mean? Let's focus on some of this lovely grass that we have. And I'm going to start with my large stubby brush. Now I need to get some crimson for my palette. Okay, little touch of crimson on my palette. And my large stubby now is not very flat, but it's not very thick, kind of sticking out either. You can use a relatively flat brush or a fan brush for this, okay? So first of all, now I'm going to mix up the colour that we have. It's a very kind of a browny green, isn't it? Let's try some black. Let's get some burnt umber and some yellow. Let's try that nice dark colour first. Bit more yellow and perhaps even a hint of burnt sienna as well. In fact, not burnt sienna, let's take a hint of cadmium red. Now that'll warm it. It's a very warm green. And I'm just going to go along, so it kind of comes around like this, doesn't it? And it kind of comes up like this. And just flick it upwards, look. And kind of go sideways then as well. Now it gets nice and thick over here, doesn't it? So you can see now I just took my flattish kind of a brush and flicked it sort of upwards. I'm getting more burnt umber. And I'm going to just pop a little bit of burnt umber. So you can make a little bit of patch as well. Sort of different tones. I'm going to get some burnt sienna for my palette because I don't have burnt sienna on my palette. So a little touch of burnt sienna just to keep it warm, okay? I can see on the photograph there it is quite a warm kind of a colour. So burnt sienna, I'm thinking. Now let me just fill this in first, yeah? We're going all right through our reflection. I know you think that you're going to spoil the reflection, but you won't, I promise. Let's just put a little of it through here and there. And then perhaps little dabs of it off in the distance like that. Look, it's sort of broken up, you see? Little bit there. It's all very, very broken up, isn't it? Take some more of that. Okay. Now I'm going to put some darker colour in towards the base of these, yes? So I'm going for some burnt umber and some black. And I'm going to flick some of that upwards. Because this is all very dark down towards the bottom of these, isn't it? Okay. Let's take a little hint more black. No, there we are. And then what I'm going to do is create a little bit of a reflection from these. So I'm going to just take the very same colour that we had, that kind of browny green, and I'm going to pull it very gently down, look. Just here and there. It's only a very light suggestion now, yes? Very light suggestion. Perhaps with one or two of these. Now, I'm taking some yellow with some sienna, and just for this warm area, I'm going to suggest some of that. And that's enough. Now, the next thing I'm going to do is, now, and I'm keeping this nice and simple. I'm going to take my palette knife and take some of the white, some of the cobalt blue, just a hint. Okay. And I'm going to just put a little bit of that across. And that separates the actual grass from the reflection, you see? It puts a border between the two. Doesn't that look lovely? Nice and simple. You see? Isn't that wonderful? Already we have a lovely reflection. Now let me bring the camera down very slightly, just so you can see the base of this. There. Better? Now, I'm going to go right along the bottom with this, and I'm going to go with the same brush, I would say. Let's dampen our brush. You can go for a bigger brush or a fan brush if you like as well. I think I'll just stick with this brush. Now, a little bit of turpentine, some brown, some black, and a little yellow. And perhaps a hint of sienna. It's quite warm, this colour. And let's go across here and just fill this in. The goal really is just to cover the canvas for the very beginning of this, just to get the canvas covered. Plenty of turpentine. Don't be afraid of the turpentine, okay? Plenty. Let's go across here. And of course, it is going to lighten as it's blending with some of this blue here, you see? Don't worry about that, we can darken it as we go. You can see everything okay, yes? Perfect. Now let me get some more burnt umber for my palette. The paint does go down very, very quickly, doesn't it? It doesn't stay around too long at all. Which is a good thing, which means we're progressing and we're doing stuff. Isn't that what it means? We're doing stuff and things are happening. And that's what I love about painting. Things are happening. Okay, let's go across. Just fill it in down here like that. And then it almost kind of disappears across on the right hand side, doesn't it? Let's go for some black and some yellow. A hint of green in there. So we have a lot of our canvas kind of pretty much covered, don't we? Now I'm taking some burnt sienna with some yellow, and I'm going to lighten some of this upwards, okay? Go across, a couple of flicks. Just paint on its own now, okay? Nothing else. I'm going to put a couple of lights in here, just to separate that from the reflection, okay? Just to make it stand forward a bit more. I'll take some more sienna with some cadmium yellow. Go along here. It's a nice warm kind of a colour, isn't it? You could spend hours doing all of this if you wanted. If you really wanted to, you could spend hours and hours doing all of this with small brushes and that kind of thing. And normally I would kind of sit down and take my time with this, really kind of, you know, spend a lot of time on it. And I still may. Now I'm putting in a little bit of a darker green down at the bottom here of this, flicking it up. Let's get some burnt umber, some burnt sienna, and let's flick some of that through. I'm just kind of flicking the brush up, you see? and then curving it to the side as well, here and there. So we're going across now nicely, aren't we? Next, I want to darken it now. I want to start darkening this. So I'm going to start going for some black. Some black with a little crimson, perhaps. I'm just going to darken that through there. Some black and brown even. Make it nice and dark as well. Because it's nice and dark at the front, isn't it? Now, right, I'm just going to get some black for my palette, and then I'm thinking I may go on to the fan brush. So we can swap to the fan brush and try a bit of work with that, and see how we get on. It's nice to try different things, isn't it? You know, whatever you have at your disposal, you can use. Now let me just get some clean tissue here for my hands. I'm getting very dirty hands. Okay, well, not as dirty as some of you, I would say, out there. Paint all over the place. Okay, let's get a nice fan brush. Okay, I have a new fan brush here, look. Cheap fan brush. Let's try it. I'll dampen that. Let me get some more turpentine. I'm out of turpentine as well. There we go. We dampen our fan brush. Let's get, let's first darken some of this, I think. I'm going to take some black and a little crimson, okay? And I'm just going to go over here and flick that up here and there. I just want to darken some of that, just a little bit. Then I'm going to take some black and some yellow, and I'm going to start flicking some of that in here. I'm going to just go right into some colours now, yes? Some burnt umber with some yellow. And I'm using the fan brush just in all different directions. See? It's a very rough kind of a land anyway, isn't it? It's very sort of, very rough, and there's no kind of solid ground there anywhere at all. So I'm just going in there. Let's give it some little tall black ones over here. I'm just basically making this very, very rough. Very, very rough land. All right. Now, the next thing I want to do is, I'm going to just sort of give it an impression of some of, let's say, these little reeds that kind of pop up here and there, look. Just a couple. Do you know what I mean? Those kinds of things. Just put a couple of them. Just dab, 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 dab. And what it does is just adds a bit of interest to the painting, that's all. That's all it's doing. I'll put some yellow over here with the burnt umber, and that will really catch your eye then against that dark background, won't it? You see? And it's all just the fan brush doing it itself. I'm just very gently tapping little bits here and there with the fan brush. And isn't that just really bringing the painting to life, almost, kind of. I won't go too far now with all of this, just a few. Let's put a couple over here, look. Just dab, 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 dab. Do a couple here. And it really helps sort of just roughen up the surface. And it kind of suggests a lot of detail, where in actual fact it's just little dabs with the brush, that's all it is. You see? Isn't that lovely? Now I'm going to take a very small pointy brush. The smallest, pointiest brush that you have. And I'm just going to take some very dark colour. Very watery, lots of water in this, okay? Or lots of turpentine. Just a very watery colour. Okay, let's say a little black. And I'm just going to give this a couple of flicks upwards here and there with that very dark colour, okay? And I'm just keeping this simple now. I'm just simplifying all of this. So I'm going to take that pointy brush now and I'm going to take some of this light bluey colour which I had earlier and I'm just going to go across some of these reflections, okay? Now a palette knife is probably a wiser solution for this. Okay, let me see now. We could just take our small pointy brush like this and take some bright yellow and put a couple of bright yellow bits and pieces like this. Perhaps take some phaylo blue and some yellow. And suggest some leafy kind of plants, okay? See, just like that. And put one around here. It's just adding a bit of interest, really, that's all it is. Nothing too kind of complicated, just a bit of fun, that's all. Next, I may put a little of the lighter colour around up here. Just little Naples yellow, that's all. And I'll take actually a little touch of black and put a hint of black here and there on some of these. Isn't that lovely? And I won't overdo this. I think we are doing very well with this. And I would say we're pretty much finished, aren't we? I might just darken some of this here. Just a little. You know, not to overdo the painting. I could keep going and adding little bits of this and little bits of that, but I don't want to overdo the painting. Alright? I think we need a bird, just one bird up in the sky. And I think that would complete this fantastic painting. Let's go with a little bird up here. It could be some kind of an eagle or something like that, okay? It's just way off in the distance. Now my brush is not the pointiest, I'll be honest. And my friends, I'm going to call that finished. I'm very happy with that. Let me zoom in and let's take a good look at what we've created in this lovely 3-part tutorial. Now, look at that. Lovely mist up in the distance. Nice simple hills. We did a bit of work on the reflections. But I think we got there in the end. And that's it. I just kind of kept it nice and simple. I hope you've enjoyed this. Let me just move my camera right back now. Look at that. Isn't that wonderful? Absolutely wonderful. I'm very, very happy with that. And that, my friends, is another beautiful tutorial done of some nice misty landscapes. I will turn the camera here so you can see me. There we go. Done just like that. Now, thank you so much for tuning in. I really enjoyed it. I may frame it, I may not frame it, but I'll put it up for sale. I think I'll put it up for sale. Why not? Let's see if we can get some interest in this. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed this 3-part tutorial. Let me know what you think. Any questions whatsoever, just email me or ask me a question in the comment section down below. Do subscribe. Thank you so much for all your support. And if you want me to do live online lessons with you in a group setting or something, just let me know. Send me an email and we can organize some one-to-one lessons even. Who knows? Thank you so much. God bless, and I will see you very soon.